there was one scene where Bottom is turned into a donkey, and he's singing, and Titania wakes up, and she's the fairy, and she's like, who woke me up with that beautiful voice? And I just said to these two, come up with a song. I'm not going to worry about the Shakespeare. I'm not going to, just come up with a song and then do the scene like she wakes up, she hears you. And he picked this song that was so funny. And so, I knew it, so it had to come from the 70s or 80s. I remember laughing, going, oh my gosh.
Welcome to our next installment of the Behind the Bard podcast. This is a new project Shakespeare Royal Oak has, and we're very excited today because we're going to be talking about education with Vickie Schmitt.
Yes.
So, Vickie, you are our new education director, correct?
I am. Yes. I actually grew up here. Well, I grew up Wisconsin and here. I went to Dondero Royal Oak High School. My dad was a educational professor at Wayne State University. And so I majored in theater. Then I went to LA and Chicago and New York and did many, many things, commercials and stand-up and improv and many things. And then I eventually started teaching in educational theater on the side while I was doing commercials in New York. And I eventually just moved back after I got my master's in New York in educational theater. And so I was teaching there for a while, but I just moved back recently. And so now I am here doing educational theater.
Yes,
here.
And our education program has two different elements. We have the KidsAct program, which was the original program, which was started in 2002, and that deals with which age kids?
They are the kindergarten through 8th grade, middle school.
All right. And then the Shakespeare Royal Oak Teen Ensemble is obviously
the high school
age.
Yeah.
Okay. So the programs are very different.
Yes.
So we'll just kind of look at both of those and see, because I've been part of this program for a long, long time. My kids both went through a KidsAct all the way through Teen Ensemble in its many different formations. And one of the things that I find so fascinating is that this program kind of trailblazes. It started as an educational program for younger children, and then the younger children wanted more. So we created Teen Ensemble to support those needs. So I know when I started, I found out that there was a program that offered sword fighting.
Right.
I couldn't sign my son up fast enough. I found out, and there's a program, and I learned it's not just sword fighting. It has Shakespeare, and then the safe sword fighting.
Yes.
And then what are the other two
elements?
Dance
and improv.
Dance and improv. And all of those kind of go together to make the KidsAct program. And then the Teen Ensemble is different. They don't do the same kind of a program, do they?
No, they put on a show.
Okay.
They actually do a Shakespeare show.
Okay, so it's a cut-down piece of...
It's an edited piece.
Okay, an edited.
But it's still 2 acts, and they pretty much do a whole show that they put together in 2 weeks.
And so which show are they doing this year?
This year we're doing A Midsummer's Night Dream.
Okay. And what made you pick that one?
I love that show, and every part is good in that show. And also my niece was in Hamlet last year, which is what they did, which is very serious, obviously. And so I said, okay, I promise you a comedy. I promise this to you. And this is the funniest one, I think, of all the Shakespeares that the teenagers can really understand, because lovers get lost in the woods, and they all get love potion in their eyes, and they start having your basic teenage fights that they have in the hallways of high schools, because I've taught in high schools long enough to be oh, you'll love each other tomorrow, but right now you're fighting. And then you've got the fairies running around, and you've got the amateur actors who are putting on a show. So there's so many things going on, and there's so many things to do, that it's just such a fun show. And I saw Hamlet last year, and it was really great. And I thought, oh my God, I would love to work with these kids. But I was like, but I promised you a comedy. So that's the one reason I picked Midsummer.
So how does that work? That when they're going to put on a show, how did that all get started? Do they audition?
Yes, there's a workshop that they all come to, or they can. It's not mandatory. But for 3 hours, we did a lot of improv, and we got to know each other, and then I handed out some scenes, and then we worked on the scenes together and worked on a little Shakespeare so that if anyone hadn't done Shakespeare before, and then they started kind of doing scenes for each other, not like, this is not your audition, this is not your performance, this is just like to get to know each character of the play so that when they came to audition, they'd be like, oh, I know all the parts now, in case they didn't know. I'm going to audition for this part.
Okay.
And so I also got to know them really well, and they got to know each other. And it's just a really good group this year. Like, there are some kids from Hazel Park, which are they're really good, and there are 3 students who were in it last year, and a few new students who just happened to, sign up, show up. And everyone's, after the workshop, they came in and they had one monologue that they read or a scene, and then I started playing. Like, I want you to like read this part with this person, and just like, I think let's just try different combinations of people. And there was one scene where, I don't want to give away the plot, but Bottom is turned into a donkey, and he's singing. And Titania wakes up, and she's the fairy, and she's like, who woke me up with that beautiful voice? Which, of course, is not a beautiful voice. And I just said to these 2, come up with a song. I'm not going to worry about the Shakespeare. I'm not going to, just come up with a song, and then do the scene like she wakes up, she hears you. And he picked a song that was so funny. And so, I knew it, so it had to come from the 70s or 80s. I remember laughing, going, oh, my gosh, I can just... And then they just had so much fun together, because I let the kids really come up with ideas for the play that we can put in the play, so that they feel like it's Shakespeare, but they're still like, they get the concepts, they get the what's happening in the play, what's going on, and they're like, oh, I've done that before. Oh, here's what I think we should do, and I'm like, great, let's try it. And so it was really great to have that much time during the workshop and the audition to really play around with them and be like, you all can do any part. And so then I just handed out parts and said, see you in a week. Try to memorize it.
So,
no, it was not a week, just like a few weeks. They're going to have to try to memorize it.
So they have a script now.
Yes.
And they know their roles. And
Yes.
then they're supposed to show up the first week of camp in 3 weeks, or
Yes.
education camp. I guess I'd call it camp, or
Yeah.
And then off book, or
Well, I try to tell them, I know they're supposed to be off book, but because we haven't put it up on its feet, I'm like, get really familiar with it, because in a week you need to put the book down, and then we only have 1 week to really play. So the more you know it, the easier it's going to be. But we do have to block it, and they're probably but the more they're off book, the better. But I was always that person that's like, I needed to stand up and move it while I was talking, but I knew it well enough to be like, okay, now
So you'll block it.
Yes.
And you'll stage it on the Shakespeare Royal Oak main stage, where we'll
Yes.
be doing Macbeth.
Yes.
And so they'll work on the same area, and they'll have, the same access to the sound and the lights and the experience. So
Yes.
it's kind of very similar to the main program. It's just done in a slightly shorter, and then also they have 3 performances, right?
Yeah.
And that they're a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday at 7:00.
Yes.
So they're in the middle of the run during the break from between the 2 runs of Macbeth.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But also the KidsAct starts And some of them are interning for the KidsAct, so I tried to like warn them, you're gonna have a long day that day, because you're interning and then putting on a show that night. But-
Right, we have, Teen Ensemble has 2 solid weeks of rehearsal, right? Or, it's, 1 to 4?
1 to
first
4
week,
the first week,
and then a full day.
10 to 4 the second week.
Okay.
And then rehearsal on Saturday, and then
then
Sunday,
they open
Monday,
the show.
Tuesday, they do the show.
So it's
yeah.
it's a whirlwind.
It is.
Kind of
It's fast.
production.
It's fast and furious.
And then, as you mentioned, KidsAct.
Yes.
Which is entirely different. Now, I have, my kids both did the program, and one of my favorite memories of KidsAct was it was raining. And so the kids were supposed to do their showcase, which is at the end of KidsAct. They've learned all these scenes, and they have this improv and these sword fights and this dance, and suddenly it's raining.
Right.
So my favorite moment was when Ed gathered everybody into the pavilion, and he stood on a ladder with a scene shop light, and he held it over my son Jared, who was doing the Romeo and Juliet balcony scene.
Right.
And then all the other kids, everybody started getting into it, and they just saw him as the spotlight.
Right.
And that's one of the things that makes this program so magical is you can take something like from Shakespeare, which isn't necessarily always clear to some of these kids, and tell a story.
Right.
And get them excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, whatever happens, we're putting on the show. And as long as they know the show, which both the KidsAct and the teens will know by the time they perform, then they can adjust to whatever, like we're going to be like, it might rain, it might be windy, it might, like these things are going to happen. But if you know it, because I've been teaching long enough that if I know the kids know what they're doing soon enough, then by the time they perform anywhere, whatever happens, they know the show. Like I've always even before we go into tech, we know where we're running off to do a costume. We know who's moving this. It's part of my blocking to be like, you're moving this here, you're moving that there, and this happens way before we have just like one day of tech. So they all know it well enough. So that's always my goal, so that by the time we're outside, we're in the park. It's Mother Nature may kill us, but so we'll adjust.
With KidsAct,
Yeah.
You have elementary age kids.
Yes.
And they actually do Shakespeare lines and learn Shakespeare.
Yes. So there's 4 different teachers, and so the kids in the 3 groups within their age group rotate between Shakespeare and dance and improv and combat. And so my job, I'm doing the improv, but I'm also trying to connect them all. So by the end of the week, if I see these 2 things kind of go together, then I can connect that, and we can start rehearsing those 2 things together so that they're doing Shakespeare and combat. And then there's a dance, and if it connects, great. If it doesn't, I'll be like, okay, then we're doing a showcase where we're all, dancing and then doing Shakespeare. But they have throughout their day, they're going from one place to another, learning them all. And at the end of the day, of each day, we share what we learned today. And then I pretty much have always asked kids, how do you think we can connect this? Like, how do you think we can do that? Because kids have really good ideas. And once it's their idea, then they're like, oh, I came up with that. And I'm like, it's a good idea. Like, because usually I'm like, how do I connect this? And either it's going to happen, or I'll come up with it at 4 a.m. the day before and go, oh, I know what I need to do. But usually kids are like, oh, she was doing this, and now they're going to do this. And I'm like, great, let's try that. Let's do that. And so they also have learning how the process is of putting on a show, even though they've been learning these individual things that it all comes together, but not just because I'm telling them how it comes together. They have a say in it.
And they have swords.
And they have swords.
Yes.
They're foam swords.
The foam swords?
I believe.
Yes, there are foam swords for
I'm
the youngest.
hoping.
Then we have some dowel rods, but we actually have real swords. I can speak to this because
Okay.
I've seen it done. Some of the kids get it. They learn, especially there's three groups. There's the youngest,
Yes.
there's the middle, and then there's the end of the middle school years
Yeah.
where they're doing some maybe a little heavier scene.
Yeah.
And so they will have swords. And we use real swords. We did in Hamlet last year for the
Right.
teen group. A few years ago, we did Macbeth with teens, and that production was all girls. And the final performance was a true Scottish day. We showed up, and it was pouring. It was just raining. And the director at the time gave the actors a choice. He said, we've done 2 shows, we could call it quits, and they wouldn't.
Right.
And they did the entire production of Macbeth, hitting the dirt, hitting the ground with water. So they were, even when they fell, all the death scenes.
Right.
So, and no one left from the audience. And at the end of that performance, Ed stood up and said, this is my favorite experience about Shakespeare Royal Oak. It's
Right.
seeing the magic that happens because of passion, because of these kids have an interest in trying something new, and experiencing Shakespeare is not something every kid gets to do.
Right. Yeah. And that's hopefully like, because they've been there the whole week, and they're all connected with each other. And it's not like they stay in their groups. We start together in a big group. They've talked to each other. They hang out at lunch. They watch each other at the end of the day. They are there for each other. So we've created a theater ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to be like, no, we'll help you. What do you need? That's usually ends up what happening.
And this is, arts education is really important in preparing students for real life. I mean, right now what we're doing is improvisation. I mean, really, people interacting day to day is improvisation. There are no scripts
Right.
when we have a conversation. Unlike when you're doing a Shakespeare scene, you have a script. So it's really fascinating to me how these students respond and how they grow in presenting themselves and then speaking with others. But arts education is really key in helping them develop their personalities and their ability to speak in public.
Yeah, I've always had, like, when I was doing it in New York, we'd have that one shy kid who was holding on to his mom, and I'd be like, just come in, just give me a day or two. And then there was that day that he just went, bye, Mom, and ran in, and you could see the mom like, but, no, what? And I'm like, you told me you wanted him to have confidence. Like, it's like they eventually, like, because the group and everyone wants to do it, and all the games we play together and all the improv we do together and everything they're doing, they just start forming this, like, bond that they're just like, yeah. And then they start being able to have more confidence to talk in front of people and to do, theater education, which is why it's different from, like, I'm going to put on a show and I'm going to tell you what to do because I'm putting on a show. Mm-hmm. Theater education is like, well, let's talk about this. What do you want to try? What do you want to do? Let's see. The journey of the process, this is all part of the educational process. You should be getting better because you're getting more confident, and from whatever, you may suddenly realize, oh, I'd like to just be a teacher who does sword fighting. Like, the great thing about the KidsAct is 2 people who are in Macbeth are our teachers. Mm-hmm. And so they'll be able to go to Macbeth and be like, I know that guy, so they have all these now suddenly, like, this connection, this different world of, that's educational theater as opposed to, oh, I'm just putting on a show. I have 2 weeks. You're going to stand over there and say your line. Like, that's just a whole different animal.
And the actors do come in support. I mean, they do come. Last year, the gentleman, Drew, who's playing Macbeth this year, he played Hamlet in 2014.
Yeah.
And he and his wife, who's playing Lady Macbeth this year, Meredith, they both came to see Hamlet, and he took a picture with, new Hamlet. So
right.
It's the support that comes from our adult actors it's really, Shakespeare Royal Oak creates this kind of a family experience
Yeah.
from tech, from education, and then these students see, and then they're invited to come see the main stage production so they can see what the next step could be
Yeah.
if they wanted to pursue some type of either theater arts or perform, or just, the hobby of theater, which, we all know and love. We're just thrilled that we had a time to talk about education,
Yeah.
and sharing all the different details, and we hope that if you've stayed around, you can come out and see us in the park and check out what our students perform.
Rain or
Midsummer,
shine.
Rain or shine. And check us out on social media channels. And thanks for joining us for Behind the Bard.